This is Michael Popok, Legal AF. We've got developments that are historic in the sentencing of the Oath Keepers by Judge Mehta, D.C. Circuit Court, all this week, giving out, Judge Mehta, the highest sentences to any of the seditious conspiracy defendants who were convicted by a jury of the Oath Keepers to date. I'll keep track of it for you. I'll tell you what the highest sentences are and why it matters as the federal courts in the District of Columbia continue to be, as one analyst called them, the conscience of democracy, and particularly Judge Mehta, who is handing out the highest, the top 4 sentences that have been handed out to those in the seditious conspiracy defendant group, including Oath Keepers and Proud Boys, handed out by Judge Mehta. I'm going to cover it all on this hot take, so lean in and let's follow it from the beginning. We've got Stewart Rhodes and 4 others of the Oath Keeper leadership convicted of either seditious conspiracy, which is Kelly Meggs and Stewart Rhodes, the leaders of the Oath Keepers, and then right below them, others, including Ken Harrelson and Jessica Watkins, who are all going to be sentenced or have been sentenced this week, leading into Memorial Day weekend by Judge Mehta. Recall that the Oath Keepers were actually on the ground on Jan 6th. They had an arsenal of weaponry at a Best Western or a Comfort Inn in Virginia, ready to be brought into the Capitol. They were running around on golf course. They were coordinating the attack, military style, on the Capitol. They were at the tip of the spear. They broke in and broke the lines that were being held by the Capitol Police and others, and got their way into the House and the Senate and the chambers of democracy in order to stop the peaceful transfer of power. And they were in coordination, as it came out during the trial, with people in the Trump campaign. So Jack Smith, of course, is looking at all that. But just because we haven't gotten to the point where we're indicting Donald Trump and those around him doesn't mean justice shouldn't be meted out, right? And Judgment Day isn't here for all the people that listen to the clarion call of Donald Trump that'll be wild on Jan 6th. Help me cling to power. Help me stop the peaceful transfer of power. Help me remain president when the American people said otherwise and elected Joe Biden. And Stewart Rhodes, Yale law graduate, despite his eye patch because he shot himself in the face at a gun range. He's a Yale law graduate. He was sentenced first. I'm going to read you some chilling sentencing language from the judge, from the bench, about this case and the peril to democracy, starting with Stewart Rhodes. If you're tracking at home, I've got another Popok Porter board, okay? These are the top 6 sentences for January 6th defendants, all given out by Judge Mehta, with 2 more to come on the Friday before Memorial Day. Stewart Rhodes, convicted seditious conspiracy and given an enhancement in sentencing for domestic terrorism, 18 years in prison. That was yesterday. Peter Schwartz assaulted police officers multiple times, not part of the Oath Keepers, but given the second highest so far, sentenced by Judge Mehta or any federal judge, 14 years. Kelly Meggs, he got his sentence yesterday as well. He was a little more contrite. He was emotional. He apologized to his family, not necessarily to anybody in his in America or to the police or the Capitol Police. Just embarrassed. He got 12 years, right? And then Mr. Webster, former police officer for the New York City Police Department, who also lied on the stand about what he did. He got 10 years. So 18, 14, 12, and 10. Keep all those in mind as I talk about the sentencing that's going to happen today of 2 former Army veterans in front of the same judge, Judge Mehta. Why is it all Judge Mehta? Because he presided over the entire Oath Keeper trial. There were 2 parts. The leaders went first. Rhodes, Meggs, Harrelson, Watkins. Another group of 5 went second in front of a separate jury, mainly because there was too many people in the courtroom, too many defendants. They needed a bigger courtroom. First sentence handed out, 18 years, Stewart Rhodes. Stewart Rhodes did himself no favors. Not only did he testify at trial, waiving his Fifth Amendment right and pissed off the jury, obviously, who convicted him quickly, But then he pissed off the judge right before sentencing by going on a 20-minute rant, again, not represented by lawyers, 20-minute rant in which he said he'll always defend the Constitution. He did nothing wrong. First Amendment rights, yada, yada, yada. No contrition, showed no respect for the law, showed no remorse, and the judge commented on that. Kelly Meggs, his partner in crime, literally, at least he was a little bit more contrite, tearful, but only apologized to his family for what he did. Didn't apologize to the American people, the justice system, democracy, or to the Capitol Police or others that were injured and horribly impacted for life, scarred for life by what happened on Jan 6. Those victims got to testify in front of Judge Mehta as well as part of the sentencing process, federal sentencing process in America. Victim impact statements are provided to the sentencing commission, to the sentencing probation department, who then puts it together and gets it to the judge. But people who are legitimate victims are able to come into the courtroom and speak. Family members, law enforcement, Capitol Police, Washington, D.C. Metro Police, young staffers, right? Who had a run for their lives on Jan 6, being chased by a murderous mob led by the Oath Keepers. They testified, right? David Lazarus, Capitol Police, testified about the severe psychological impact of what happened on that day. Nancy Pelosi's chief of staff testified about what happened to her crawling on her belly to get away from these madmen, these mad people. And this is all ringing in the ears of Judge Mehta, who then had his say, as only a federal judge wearing the black robe has. Or as one of my fellow legal commentators said, it was the day where the nails faced the hammer. And the hammer is Judge Mehta. And so I want to read, because I think it's so important that we don't lose this. I want to read what Judge Mehta said right before sentencing both Kelly Meggs and Stewart Rhodes, with 3 more to come in front of him today. He said the following: I dare say, Mr. Rhodes, and I never have said this to anyone I have sentenced. Mehta is an Obama appointee. He's been on the bench for quite some time. You pose, this is to Stewart Rhodes, an ongoing threat and peril to our democracy and the fabric of this country. But he goes on in chilling words. I dare say we all now hold our collective breaths when an election is approaching. Will we have another Jan 6th again? That remains to be seen. He then refuted Stewart Rhodes' position during his 20-minute rant that he got, right? His peace of mind that he got to give the judge for whatever that was worth. He can sit and think about that for the next 18 years in jail. You are not a political prisoner, Mr. Rhodes. That is not why you are here. It is because of your beliefs. I'm sorry, it is not because of your beliefs. It is not because Joe Biden is the president right now. He said, the judge, a seditious conspiracy, when you take those two concepts and put it together, is among the most serious crimes an American can commit. It is an offense against the government to use force. It is an offense against the people of our country. It is a series of acts in which you and others committed to use force, including potentially with weapons, against the government of the United States as it transitioned from one president to another. And what was the motive? You didn't like the new guy? This is Mehta, Judge Mehta's words, not mine. Let me be clear about one thing to you, Mr. Rhodes, and anyone else who is listening. Judge Mehta, we're all listening. You are the conscience of democracy. And Judge Mehta said to Rhodes and the world, in this country, we don't paint with a broad brush, and shame on you if you do. Just because somebody supports the former president, it doesn't mean that they are a white supremacist, a white nationalist. It means they voted for the other guy. What we absolutely cannot have is a group of citizens who, because they do not like the outcome of an election, who do not believe the law was followed as it should be, foment revolution. You don't take to the streets with rifles. You don't hope that the president invokes the Insurrection Act so you can start a war in the streets. You don't rush into the U.S. Capitol with the hope to stop the electoral vote count. It is astonishing to me, this is Judge Mehta, how average Americans somehow transformed into criminals in the weeks before and on January 6th, right? And he went on to say that Mr. Rhodes was a continued threat to democracy, and threw the book at him and gave him 18 years, which will now be the standard by which all other sentences for this level of seditious conspiracy, and there are other people, including the Proud Boys, convicted of seditious conspiracy that we will watch on the MeidasTouch network, on hot takes that I do for them, Michael Popok, on the network, just like this one. 2 more people who have got to be quaking in their boots and you know what in their diapers over what their sentence is going to be now that they know what is the framework, 18, 14, 12, and 10. Where will the former Army veterans that are going before Judge Mehta today, where will Jessica Watkins and Ken Harrelson fall on this scale? The judge gave Meggs slightly less. He basically said, Kelly Meggs is before me because of Stuart Rhodes and following blindly Stuart Rhodes. So he gave him a little bit of less time. He'll spend 4 less years in prison. These 2 are leaders, Watkins and Harrelson. So if I had a guess, and they were not convicted, to be frank, they were not convicted by the jury of seditious conspiracy. They were convicted of obstruction of Congress. So the enhancements, the domestic terrorist enhancements, even though the government is looking for it, may not be applied to them, but they're still going to be in the 10 to 14 year range. They're not going to, maybe the judge gives them 8. I doubt it. I think it's going to be 10 to 14. I'll report back to you on hot takes just like this one I do every week. These are important. If federal judges are the conscience of democracy, we like to think at the MeidasTouch Network that we are also, in our own way, in describing the intersection of law and politics, the conscience of democracy, and you in watching and learning what you take from these hot takes from our podcast, Legal AF, on Wednesdays and Saturdays, also on the MeidasTouch Network, that you take away information, facts, immutable facts, not opinions. Or as the complaint that was filed against Fox News by Dominion, one of my favorite openings in a pleading ever, said, 1 + 1 = 2. The earth revolves around the sun, and Joe Biden won the election. These are facts. You can have First Amendment opinions all you want about them and go express them, as long as you don't pick up arms against your fellow Americans and attack the cradle of democracy. We're going to do hot takes like this. We've been doing hot takes like this for the last 2 years on the MeidasTouch Network. If you like this one, give me a thumbs up, leave a comment. I'll read them, and I may even respond back to you. We can have a little bit of a dialogue. Watch me on Wednesdays and Saturdays on the MeidasTouch Network on Legal AF. I do it with my co-anchors, Karen Friedman Agnifilo, former top prosecutor, Ben Meiselas, founder of MeidasTouch, civil rights lawyer in his own right. And you can follow me on all things social media at MS Popok. This is Michael Popok, Legal AF reporting.
Hey, Meidas Mighty. Love this report? Continue the conversation by following us on Instagram at MeidasTouch to keep up with the most important news of the day. What are you waiting for? Follow us now.